All right, so I'm going to do a really quick video. I'm in here because Zeta is actually in the man cave asleep. It's still kind of early morning, and so I'm heading out to the studio here in a little bit. But something that I saw actually on an app, a neighborhood app, and basically people in the area can write comments about different things that are going on. And one of the things was about gunshots, right? You hear people talking about, oh, I've been hearing a lot of gunshots, this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 right? And it's some of this is true. I'm not going to deny that. I think some of it is true. I think that there has been, gunshots and whatnot. Some of it is cars that are backfiring because there's a lot of people here, not as much in Seattle when I lived there, but there's a lot of people here with those little bitty cars that, they put together with little, like, they have kits and stuff that they put on them and they make them sound as loud as they possibly can. And you have a lot of people that try to just rev their engines and, floor it and all that. And so it backfires. And so you hear a lot of that. One day, I saw a car that was right next to me with one of those kits, old car, and he floored it and he literally backfired for like half a block, back to back to back to back to back. Well, a person walking like ducked because they thought it was gunshots. So some of this is just cars, others are fireworks, but there could be a vast majority of gunshots. And you have people saying, well, I'm going to leave. I'm going to, I'm putting my house up for sale and blah, 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 blah. It's just hysteria, right? One, and I mentioned this in the thing. I said I've lived in Indianapolis, Albuquerque, and for a small amount of time in Cincinnati. And I said if you look at the problems here in Tacoma and in Seattle combined, it doesn't come anywhere close to just one of those cities. And all three of those cities are great cities, don't get me wrong. They're really wonderful cities. But if you're going to leave over gunshots, to me, that just sends a signal to the people doing the problem or causing the problem that this is a neighborhood that you can easily set up shop and do whatever you want to do. Right? Most of these people are, and if they're from this area, have never really seen a whole lot of crime. Because, I mean, crime does happen here, but it's not as prevalent as in other parts of the country where it happens quite often. So a lot of times, and Noel and I talked about this, there are people who are just so scared of everything. And it's really not that bad. Now, again, when I lived in all these other places, I typically lived like, I don't know, in kind of like the suburbs or kind of, in Indianapolis's case, I lived on 82nd Street in Allisonville. It's a pretty nice area of Indianapolis. And in Cincinnati, I lived in Cincinnati itself, but it was, I forget exactly where now. But it was more of the kind of, I forget now. It's been, God, 20 years. So in Albuquerque, I lived in Rio Rancho, right? So there are elements of all of the cities I mentioned that are up there in terms of crime. But people aren't packing up their bags and all their belongings and stuffing it in a U-Haul and move. I said, because all you're going to do is create a vacuum. You leave. It's the same thing that happened with flight back in the day, where people left communities because people of color started moving into cities. So a lot of the white populations just left and went other places. Well, the problem with that, and it doesn't work, leaving doesn't work, it just creates a bigger problem because now you're adding to sprawl, you're adding to more traffic headaches, you're adding to more expense that has to be built because of utilities and infrastructure and all of that. Crime travels. It's not just located in one area, it travels. A lot of the places these people move to are now hotbeds of crime themselves, because you literally set the tone, right? You can't buy your way out of crime. It doesn't work that way. And other people suggested, why don't you get involved in your community? You could easily notify the police of what's going on. And if it's set up a neighborhood watch, and if all of these neighbors are reporting on the same issue, then the police obviously will act. Someone said that the police will start setting up cameras and different things. Um, I don't know. I mean, probably. But if there's enough people that complain about it, then the issue gets solved. Other people said that they could have packed up their stuff and left, but they instead worked with the neighborhood, worked with the local authorities, and they found out that it was a house in their community that was causing the problem. There were a group of renters who were the biggest issue. So guess what? They were able to get them evicted. Problem stopped. Right? Typically, you're talking about a couple of individuals that are the problem. So you're going to pack up, sell your house, do all this stuff just over a couple of people. The other thing is, a lot of times these crimes aren't targeted towards people who aren't involved in them. I've said this over and over again. People talk about the safety here. And as long as you're not sticking your nose into other people's businesses and getting involved in things that are illegal, then you're pretty much okay. I can't always promise that's the case, or, there's not a circumstance, because there are going to be circumstances of that. But the vast majority of the time, people who are involved in some sort of issue is because they're involved with someone who does criminal stuff. So, of course. But that doesn't mean that every single person here has to live in fear. And the other part of that is, they're wanting to move to some of these other places, these outlying cities, and they mentioned them. And the fact is, and I've said this before, Beverly Hills, California, very wealthy area. Thousand Oaks, California. I know someone who lives in Thousand Oaks, California. Very ritzy place. Those places still have crime. It's heavily underreported. They still have crime. They still have problems. They still have a lot of the same social ills. Crime does not have a zip code. And so it to me, it baffles me when people get a little rattled over something that they don't quite know the truth about. And instead of doing something about it in a positive way to influence and help your community, they do something else. I mean, there are cities in America where people have left because of social ills, and it creates a domino effect. Because people who want to stay and want to deal with the criminal issue the right way by contacting the police and doing what they need to do, they're forced to sell their homes because their values tank because everybody else is leaving, right? So then people who can't get out from under their home and sell it because they don't want to lose so much money, they rent it out. So you create a huge parts of the city that are nothing but rentals. And so that by itself creates nothing against renting a home, but when you have nothing but rentals in a city in terms of a home, it is a problem. People who rent a lot of times don't care about the property. They don't own it. They don't care about the neighborhood. They know they're not really going to be fully vested in that neighborhood. Not always the case, but a lot of times that's the case. So you're only creating more of an issue. You're creating more of a problem. And there are cities in America, I was going with this, that have done that, where people are just up and left, and you create these big, massive dead zones. And then you have suburbs that balloon in population because everybody has left and went to those places, and then it becomes nothing but a commuter district where everybody has to commute into that city, and then they fly back to their homes. They have to go back to their homes every single day that's kind of far out, and they go in every single, when there's a sporting event, they go into the city, or when there's work, they go into the city. But other than that, they avoid the city. And all that does is really and truly creates more of an economic impact. I mean, look at a lot of these cities that's happened to, and they're not doing so well. They're just not. These smaller cities don't have the same capacity of a bigger city. They don't have the same amount of police. They don't have the same amount of fire department or fire apparatus. They can only expand so much. And so they're limited. Whereas the bigger cities have been bigger cities for a while. They have that infrastructure in place. To me, it just doesn't make any sort of sense. It's just it's crazy. So, and I even mentioned, I mean, why not just work with local authorities, have cameras inside your home or security systems, start a neighborhood watch. You can also have a neighborhood association, which I've seen a lot of those, worked with a lot of those. They even have police officers who come and talk to them about the issues in their community or things that they want to see improved or what have you. And things like that, being more of a part of your neighborhood and your community than to just do the simple stuff. It's simple to go into your home, close it off, and not see anybody. Don't wave at anybody. Don't say hi to anybody. Don't get involved in your community. Don't pick up trash in your community. That's easy. Anyone can do that. But it's much more harder for you to be proactive and actually care more about making your community look good, right? Picking up trash that you see random. I pick up trash all the time. I see a couple of our neighbors who pick up trash. Some don't. There are some that just create more of a problem, but there are some who pick up trash when they see it because they care about their community. There are some who plant trees because they care about what their community looks like. So it depends on what you choose to do, but just packing up and leaving because you hear a gunshot that has nothing at all to do with you, and or you think it's a gunshot, and you don't really and truly do anything about it, you're going to just keep running forever because these other communities have the same type of issue. But anyhow, let me know what you think. Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.